Hey everyone, Steve here. Uh, this is the part one to a completely unplanned guide on how to get items to show up on overflow storage on your plot in Palia. Uh, I started on this plot, but my actual overflow is in my home plot. I have it stored here currently. You can only have one overflow on your plot at a time. So whatever your last saved plot. So let's say I switch to this plot and I leave my plot and I come back. It'll always show up on this plot only. If I were to switch to my garden plot, and I'll actually show you this now. If I leave, and the most stressful part of this is waiting. If my internet was faster. Oh well. So we'll go back. And once we load back in, you can see that our items have spawned back here. Something you can notice that I had things on top of this table that aren't here anymore. It'll be for later, but I can show you what happened to them. Those items that I had on top of there are now floating in the center of my plot right here. I can remove these, but I won't because I want these to go back on that table. So later, when I reload the plot with this plot selected, it'll go back to that table. Where did the items? Oh, right, because I swapped. Okay, so what I'm gonna do to add a new item to my list of this stack of items here is I first discovered this with the pavilion add-on. So I'll take a pavilion out, I'll place it down, and then inside the pavilion we can test this out. Let's say we have Frogbert, right? Imagine that. Let's place Frogbert here for now. So imagine that this is the location of the array here. When you initially place the pavilion, and I haven't tested this for other parts yet, the front side of this pavilion, if you look this way, any objects that are facing this direction will be facing this way on the plot in this direction. So imagine you'd have the that broken sign would be on the right side and your selling bin would be on the left side. Orientation wise, you're kind of rotating it 180 degrees. So the way you rotate an object on your pavilion would be how it would show up on the over here. So let's say I want the front of Giga Frogbert here to face the player this way. So when I look here, the front of Giga Frogbert will be facing me when I first spawn into the plot. So I just have to rotate him 180 degrees from where I want him to be facing. So instead, I'll have him face this way. So now he's facing that direction. Now to get him to stay on the overflow spot, this is the special part. So we have the pavilion down now. We'll take the pavilion, left click it, well we have it selected. We go up here to the drop down for the plots. Go to home, sweet home. So any plot that you want to move, it really doesn't matter which plot as long as you stay on the plot you want at the end when you leave your home plot. So I'm gonna pick my home plot here. Place down the pavilion. It's still there. For the pavilion, it turns invisible. So I'm gonna take the pavilion. It's still there. I'm gonna right click it to move it into my inventory. But as you can see, Frogbert hasn't appeared in my inventory. In fact, he's disappeared from both my plots. And if I'm to check my inventory here, I go to decor, Giga Frogbert is not anywhere in my general storage or safe storage. So he's disappeared, which means the game has detected that he's in that limbo space. So if I go back to my garden, Giga Frogbert is nowhere to be found, not even in the overflow yet. So to trigger the overflow, I need to leave my plot. So I'm gonna leave it on the plot that I want all the items to show up on. So I'm gonna stay here and I want to leave it on this plot. I'm gonna leave the plot. I'm gonna reload it again. It's the most fun part of decorating. Okay, back to my plot. Like 2 frames a second. I need just a little bit longer. And there he is. Giga Frogbert is facing me on my overflow. Now the thing is, you can't decide specifically where each object will be, but from my prior knowledge for small objects, the array size is about 7. I tried it with candles and it was 7, but for larger objects, the array length, so the width here before it loops over to another row, changes. I think for bigger objects it might be 4, but for smaller objects it's 7. You might need to do more testing for that. But that's how you get Giga Frogbert here. Additionally, to note, you can place objects on top of other objects in the overflow array here, or stack, but they have to be, the base object has to be something you can place stuff initially on top anyways. So as for like carpets like this, while I do have a thing here, so if I go over to my main plot, you can place stuff on top of the carpets, but technically in the game's code, this is on top of the ground, not the carpet. So because of that, if I was to take like an object here on top of here, let's say this choppa, for example, and I try to place it on the carpet, it won't work, but here it'll work. So you can place and move objects on top of things that have placeable surfaces. Aside from that, there's another little gimmick too. If you use the, so this is gonna take a little bit longer, but if you use the tent instead, which I just discovered, if you place an object on it, so let's say this, and it was sideways, so I'm gonna put it 180 or 90 degrees offset. And I did the same tech again. I pick up the tent, go to another plot, place it down, pick it back up, and then I leave the plot, and I come back. That carpet, which was the baby, forgot the name, Ormu, I think, should be, instead of it being flat on the ground, it will be 90 degrees rotated, I think orthogonal, or it's on another axis basically. That's how you can get stuff embedded into the ground. So if you look back here, that baby Ormu is now stuck here, and it has collision too. Some objects like the tree, this Christmas tree for example, there's only collision with the floor, but some objects like this you can collide with the side of it. I've also discovered that for placeable objects like this table, if I was to make it sideways, you can't place objects. I was hoping that I could have stacked something all the way over there, but it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. So that's the basics of the overflow tech. There you go. I'll find more things about this. Haven't tested if the tech works with the ranch houses yet. But I have a ranch house building, so it should take about another 7 hours, and then I can test it for once. But for now, yeah, I don't want to test it with my current buildings. I like how they're designed so far. So there's that. Right, see you in a bit.